So all I've done with this is to grab my gesso. This is just a different brand, but it's the same thing. I have painted the page lightly with a little bit of water. This depends on how warm it is at your place today. Ideally doing this the night before class, because it'll take a little while to dry and we need it to be really dry. So just prep this the night before. Grab your scraper, put some gesso out. Now it's going to be quite generous. And what we've done beforehand is to get this serviette in your kit, and I've taken off the top layer and then just ripped it into random pieces. Alright, so we're just going to collage that on. So spread your gesso around. I mean, it's sort of thick, but I'm going to put that much back in. So I just want a coverage all over the page, because what we're going to do is, instead of glue, we're using the gesso to stick the serviette down. So it's sort of thick, doesn't matter if it's a little bit lumpy. You can actually just pick up some water on your card and just wet it a little bit so that it doesn't dry out before I've stuck it down. And then I'm just going to randomly place the serviette and just lightly rub over it. I don't mind that that's got picking up a little bit of the white underneath, as long as there's no bubbles there. I don't care if there's wrinkles in it. So I like the way that it does pick up a little bit of the white. It sort of makes it go into the background, which is what I want. And just put them randomly. I don't mind. I'm actually going to scrunch that up a little bit and have a little bit of a fold, just so it's not so harsh. Again, just so that you've got no lumps. I mean, not lumps, just so we've got no air bubbles, because if you've got air bubbles in there, it won't stick properly. So I am using the lighter areas too, and I'm just going to press that down so that it comes over the other bit a bit, and then I will use my card to rip off the excess, and I'll just place it here. Just smooth it down. A little bit of the gesso and make sure that it's sort of smoothed down. So I've probably used half a serviette. I have got a little bit of the white showing. No, I actually think that's enough for now. So once you've got all your edges down, just go along the edge and make sure that they're all sort of pressed down, so that it's not going to pull up later on. You can add a little bit more gesso if it's not sticking. So say that wasn't sticking, you could just put some gesso right over it. Of course, the thicker the gesso, the more opaque it'll be, and you won't be able to see the serviette. But I actually don't mind. This will actually dry a bit lighter, which is fine. So I will let that dry thoroughly now, and then we'll continue on with the class. Okay, so that's nice and dry now. So the colours that we're going to use today are the cool red, the cool yellow, and a little bit of white. We will also be using our small circle sequin waste and just your makeup sponge. The brush we'll be using is the biggest flat brush you've got, both of your white and black pens, and your HB pencil. So first of all, I'm going to put out some yellow on the palette. Just a blob of yellow. We'll put out a blob of red. We don't need the white yet. So what we're going to start doing is just this glazing in the background. So just pull out a bit of yellow until it's, and add water until it's inky like we've done before. Not too watery to start with. A little bit of water, and then just glaze in some areas on your page, softening the edges with your fingers. So we don't want it solid yellow because I just want it to be nice and soft, and I want to be able to see the serviette through the background. Just rub out the edges. So work quite quickly so that we can spread the paint around. Doesn't matter if they all almost meet there, but just keep adding water to your paint. We don't want a great big blob. Now I'll just show you, if you do actually go like that and it's too thick, I mean this paint's quite opaque anyway, I mean quite transparent anyway. Just rub it out with your finger. If that's still too heavy for you, because if you can see I've got quite a lemon colour, just clean your brush, add some water, rub it out, grab a paper towel and just dab off some paint. So we've done that before. Just while it's wet you can easily take it off, and then keep washing out your brush. So then after this, we will add some red. So go into your red, make it inky, and then go into the areas on the page. Now I want this quite light, so really rub it out with your finger and make it quite light. Blend the edges where it comes into the yellow with your finger so it's nice and soft. We don't want it all orange. So sort of that might be a little bit too dark for what I'm wanting. I'd like it sort of this light pastel-y colour. I can come back and fix that. A little bit of red around here. Again, it's better to build up the layers than try and take it off. So that's a bit too dark. I'll wash my brush and then try and lift it off a little bit. So I'll do the same here. This might soak in a bit more because it's where the serviette is, but as you can see, if I wet it, I can sort of pull some off. Now I'll add some more yellow. I just want that little bit more yellow. A little bit more yellow here. Go back into the red. So we don't want it all orange. I want the red and the yellow to be the main colours of the page. Nice and soft. You can have a little bit of orange there, that's fine. But we can still see the serviette underneath. Okay. Now mine looks quite bright. I might take this away because you'll keep referring to it. There's another layer that softens this, so don't think that you've got to have it that pastel colour. Now we can just dry this off lightly. That's just sort of touch dry, so I'm not that's dry paint, so that's fine. Now I want you to put out some white onto your palette, and we're going to be stenciling. Now I'm doing this white stenciling layer through the sequin waste to actually soften these areas and to actually tie it all together. So to start with, again, depending on how hot or cold your room is, I'm going to start with just using the dry sponge. I'm not wetting it. And like we pull out paint with our paintbrush to make the paint inky so that we don't get blobs of paint in our brush, we want to do the same with the sponge brush. I'm sure I've shown you how to do this before. So just go into the edge of the blob of paint and just pull it out so it goes into the sponge. So we're just going to be careful that you're holding this down so it doesn't get pushed underneath. So just do a little bit of a section there, just so you can see how it comes out. So I'm going to do it the stenciling crossing over from the yellow to the pink, the reddy pink. Make sure that you don't just sort of do it in here and do it in here. You need sort of a bit of a crossover. I have done quite a bit. I will do it over the bits of the serviette, but also in the areas where there's no serviette. So into this area here is fine. We're tying the whole page together at the moment. And areas where you think it might be a bit heavy, where the blue is, you just want to soften the blue from the serviette underneath. That sort of softens that, but you can still see it. Now at this stage I'm starting to think about the area that I want to put my text. So I want to put it over here. So I need this area to be quite light, otherwise we won't see the dark pen. I like this down here, that can stay. So just randomly around the page. I might just add a little bit more white. So what I'm looking for, as I'm getting closer to having enough stenciling done, is what I'm looking for now is, are there any, like I just put some stenciling here because I could see a line between the yellow and the red and I wanted to get rid of that. Are there any areas of the edges of your serviette collage that you wanted to soften? So immediately I see here a torn edge. For this particular page, I just want to soften maybe this area a bit because that is quite dark. So I won't go all up the edge, I'll just break it up a little bit. Just like that. And I think that softens it nicely. We've still got some white down here. I'm not bothered about doing anything there, but this is sort of a bit plain. I'm not going to write text over there, so I'd actually like a bit of patterning because that's going underneath the dragonflies. I quite like that there. So there is a bit of this stenciling, but it's sort of a lot of random areas. Do it off the edge of the page up here as well, and I might just add a little bit down here in the corner. This one you've got the nice texture from the page underneath. I might just break this up just a little bit here, just soften that. Doesn't need much, and I might soften that there. So I think that's enough. So you can see that we've got quite a covering of this stenciling layer, but you can see little areas peeking through where there is no stenciling. So I quite like this area here. Again, that's random. Don't try and make something to be the same, because as you can see, that background is different to that background. So that's the beauty of just doing it randomly. It all ends up different. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to let that dry, and while we let that dry, we'll go through and do our journaling exercise. So what I want you to do is we will do the journaling exercise now, and then when you've finished answering your journaling question, I want you to dry that off really, really well, because we're going to draw over it with the Posca pen and we don't want it to clog up the pen. So we'll do our journaling question now. Hi everyone, welcome to the journal question for lesson 10. And as you know, today we're talking about rest. And I think rest is underrated, and I can say that from personal experience. I'd like us to talk about what rest means to you. Do you have any preconceived ideas about what it means, symbolizes, or what it looks like? So when I say I have personal experience, I used to think that if I was resting, even when I had things on my to-do list, I thought I was being lazy. And I would feel guilty if I sat down and rested for a while. But after letting myself get run down and becoming ill because I didn't rest, I soon realised that resting is not just for when you are sleeping at night. So I have firmly come to believe that it is a really important part of the day. Even if it's just 5 minutes to sit down with a cup of tea, or sit down and read a novel for 5 or 10 minutes, or sit down and doodle in my journal. So I obviously believe it's a major part of your mental well-being, and it is a very important part of self-care. So we're going to do some journaling around that. And the first question I want you to think about is, when you hear someone say that you should rest, and I know we shouldn't say should, so I could probably rephrase that. But if someone says to you, oh, you know, Lee, you really need some rest, or how about you rest? How does that make you feel? And what do you think when they say that? So you can pause now for a minute and just answer that question. How does it make you feel if someone tells you that it's a good idea to rest? So question 2, putting aside whether you have the time or ability to rest right this minute, what is the most relaxing thing you can think of to do. So if you're thinking about resting, what is the most attractive or appealing activity that you could do to say that you are resting? So as I said before, whether it's sitting down having a nice cup of tea, whether it's doodling in your art book, whether it is going for a walk, a gentle walk, not a racing walk, or just laying down and closing your eyes for 5 minutes. What is the most appealing thing for you to do to say that you are resting? So pause again and then come back for the last question. So question 3, can you think of a couple of ways that you can incorporate rest into your day or your week? So just write a couple of ideas down, and it might be referring back to question 2 and building on that. Just write a couple of things down. It might only be 3 things. And maybe you could do a few things that some are just a quick 2 minutes, some are resting for 30 minutes. Build it into your day. So I want you to do that. And when you've finished your journaling, make sure your page is dry and you can continue on with our painting lesson. Okay, so we've done our journaling questions and we have got this page nice and dry. Now, I think I've said in classes before, I said in the last class, but if you're unsure of whether your page is actually dry all the way through underneath, particularly when you've got a few layers, after you use your heat gun or your hairdryer, let it cool down a little bit. And if it's cold rather than just room temperature, it means that underneath it's still wet. So you need to keep drying. So if it's all room temperature all over, then that means that it's dry and ready to go. So what we're going to do now is we're going to draw our little dragonflies. They're very, very simple. And then we're going to do our text. So I'll just show you on this piece of paper. So to draw the dragonfly, you'll start with a little circle for the head. You'll just do a little teardrop shape for the body, and then a longer one for his tail, and colour that in. So these aren't anatomically correct, they're just like a little stylized dragonfly that I like to do. So the first wing goes out like that. So sort of from just under his head to just above where his tail starts. Do one the other way. All you've got to do is make sure that you've got a point on the end. I'm not measuring them, I'm just eyeballing them. And then the wing from underneath goes out to the point and then comes back in to where the top wing finishes. So out to the point and up and under to where the top wing finishes. Little antenna. And then I'm not sure whether you can't really see it on this one, but on these ones I've just sort of doodled a little flourishy pattern in the wings, and usually wings are, the patterns are symmetrical, so I've sort of just done that. You can just do one like that underneath. So that's all it is. That's all it is. So I'll just move this and I'll keep my little dragonfly on that side, which you can still see. So I'm sort of having one dragonfly at this angle, then I've got one at this angle, and then I've got one sort of at the same angle. There, there, there. So they're all sort of facing up. And yeah, I've sort of done it that way, just these two on that side. I just think it looks good to me. If you want to do one here and then one there and one there, that's fine. But I just wanted to leave some room in case my lettering needed a bit more room around here. But of course, if you've got this one in the middle, yeah, do just 3. So that's what we're going to do. Just be brave and eyeball it. What I'm sort of looking at here is I want the tail. So what I don't want is just to have a dragonfly in here and not have a little bit of it come out over where parts of the serviette are. So I'm going to start with the head, the body. I'll do that a bit bigger, and then do the tail, which comes out over the top of the serviette. Okay, so I'm going to colour that in, colour in the head, colour in the body. Now just be careful when you do your wings here. I won't turn my page upside down because it'll just be too messy on camera, but you can certainly turn your page upside down so that you don't smudge while you're doing this side. So start with the top wing. I find if I have my Posca pen straight up and down like that, when I want to do a thick line like this, come back in. Now probably just go a bit slow if it's a bit lumpy underneath from the serviette. So that's what I've found. If you go too quick, it might skip and my pen goes all over the place. Bottom wing, I know it's a bit lumpy there, so I'm sort of maybe lift it off if I need to get over the bumps. This is going to come in lumpy, so I'm just slowing down a bit. I know there's a crease there, so I'm sort of just going to tickle it over. Just do my little flourishes. And there's one. Now we will go back and embellish him, but just for the moment, just get your placement done. So continue to do your dragonflies. Just remember the bottom wing comes up and meets the bottom of the top wing. You can have different patterns in their wings. They don't have to be the same. I like to do them a little bit different on each one. You can do them the same, so don't panic if you sort of do it and it's a different shape to this. A little bit over the serviette there. Do the body, colour it in, do the tail, now remember that to stop and dry if it's not working, just to make sure that underneath the serviette all nice and dry, because we have added a lot of water to this page over the layers. Nice and slow, just so you get your shape right. And I just have to do it. Okay, so that's our 3 dragonflies. Now I'm going to write my text. This might be a little bit dark, so I'm going to start it over here. So this is where you sort of look at these spaces here as to where I can write. I've got plenty of room here. If you get to this stage and you've got a lot of this dark area that you think, well, my writing's just not going to show up, please pause the video now and add some more of this white stenciling over the top, and that will tone that down. Okay, so we're going to write this saying on here. I will write it again on the white paper so that you can see it properly. So you can do a practice run. This pen, I think, is just about to run out, so what I might do, because I'm going to be holding it up and you won't be able to see it, I will do it for you in a pen. Just grab my texter. Okay, so I've just grabbed a black texture just so you'll be able to see it better. I can hold it at an angle now. So you can... Now all I've done is just added a little bit of fancy patterning into some of the main words. You can just write it in your own handwriting, or if you wanted to embellish the text, you can. Now I'm going to squash this up because I just realised I'm writing as big as this, but I don't have enough room. So it's if you take the time to rest your soul. So you can renew your spirit and strength if you take the time to rest your soul. So this week is all about the rest and the importance of rest. You can either do dots down here, or you can do lines. You can colour it in, and then do white dots over the top, which I'll show you how to do that. You can do angled. You can just do a scribble in there. So just embellish the font the way that you want. All depends what you've got underneath. So that's what I'm going to write on here. I just realised I haven't done the curly bits of the wing on this one. And I've actually done those two wings completely different. Doesn't really matter. Doesn't really matter. So now we've got our white pen. Actually, before we do that, we will do the shading under the wings. So grab your pencil, make sure, oh, that one's probably a bit sharp, so I'm actually going to break the tip. Just do a light little scribble. Don't press too hard because we want to be able to blend it. So if you're just happy putting the pencil on the side and blending it like that, you can just under the wing there. If you think it needs a little bit of shading up there on that side, then you can do that. Down that side of the body. And then just smudge it with your finger. It just softens it and gives it a nice shadow. Now, of course, if you get it onto the wings and you don't want on the wings, just gently rub it off. But if you just sort of go slow, you can guide the shading how you want. Now remember, we're going under, so this is underneath. A little bit of shading there, a little bit of shading there, and a little bit of shading up the top there, only because it's light. Again, just follow the shape of the wing and the body when you shade. And it's just enough to make them stand out. So see how this one's sort of in the background and these two are just standing out a little bit more. We are going to embellish it a little bit further with your white Posca pen. So we'll do the same here. Again, gently rubbing it out, following the shape of the shading, trying not to get it on the wing. You can, if your fingers are quite big, you can use the tip of a cotton bud. So just sort of go around in a circle and blend it out like that. That works quite well as well, but as you know, I like using my fingers. But this can get you up nice and tight under the wing area if you need to. And that blends quite well if you haven't pressed too hard with the pencil. Now, I think this needs a little bit of shading here. So just add a little bit of shading there, rub it out. Doesn't matter if it gets over there. Now, with your white pen, I've got little eyes on here, and I know, look, they're flying the other way, but we'll make it look like they're looking at us. And you can do white dots in there. They won't show up much here because we haven't got the patterning underneath. You can do little lines on the body and then little dots down the tail. See, that just brings him to life rather than just plain black. Lines on the body and then dots down the tail. You can do dots all over the wings if you like. That will bring the wings out. And it's good that you can see underneath, because remember, the wings are transparent, so it's not a problem that you can see the serviette underneath. I quite like the dots, little hail spots all over the wings. Dots down his body, and I'm just colouring the dots at the end of those. Just add some more dots around here. Further gives delineation between the wing and the background. So that you can see that something's sitting on top of that pattern underneath. Now what you can also do is just do a little shadow line under, not as thick as the other ones, but just underneath the top wing, and that'll give a bit more 3D to the wing itself. So there's my little cotton bud. This is where you use the pointy end of your cotton bud, just to blend that out a little bit. Now depending on what you've got underneath, this one I don't think it needs anything else. This one I think we could strengthen the lines around here. So once your first layer of your Posca pen is dry, then come back and just go over those lines, and it'll just make it stand out a little bit more. I'm not making them thicker, I'm just making them a bit more solid. So these are sort of okay, but if it looks as if it's skipped or hasn't gone down to the paper, I'll just add a bit more there. Now all I've done around the outside is just do a little scribbly line. I think we've done it as a border before, but that's all it is, just scribbly like that. If you wanted to do you know, sort of curly things around, that's fine, but I'm just going to do a little scratchy loose border. I didn't go through my H there because I'm right on the edge, and I don't mind that you can hardly see some of it because there's enough there to say that it's a border. Scribbly, scribbly. So I might just do loose lines around the dragonfly like that, if you think it needs it. Probably doesn't on that one. But what I want to do is just add to the floaty, whimsy nature of it. And you probably can't see from there, but when you actually look close up you can. And then I'll just sort of do some scribbles here. Just can't really see where they start and finish, and that's a good thing. Just see, that's another way that you can soften it. Just do these light little scribbles and then you've just softened it a little bit. You can add a bit of embellishing under the letters there if you want that to stand out. Just you can outline just that word. And it'll stand out. And just put a line under there. On the side, that makes that stand out a bit more. So you can see there's different ways to actually make your text stand out. I don't need to do it around every letter, but just where I think the letters are getting lost in the background, you know, you can just scribble white there and you can't really see it, but it does lighten the area around that text. Especially if it's a scribble, it's not as if you've coloured it in. So there you have it. There's our last class for, well, class number 10 for last class of last term. Okay, so there you go. That's our class on recognising the importance of rest and renewal. In hindsight, maybe I should have made the word rest. In fact, you could probably do that. You could make the word rest more prominent if you like. Again, choose which ones you want to make prominent. So I thank you all for being here with me. It's been wonderful and I can't wait for us to start our online classes again. Thanks very much. See you soon.